Hi, Paul here from the Hell Team Trial Store. Today we're looking at the new 2023 GasGas TXT Racing. In the front here is its previous 22 model, but this is the new from KTM GasGas 23 model TXT Racing. Today we'll be looking at some of the technical changes and some of the new things on the bike. Starting at the front, we'll look at the 22 disc guard and see the changes to the 23. This is the 22, but you can see the new 23 guard has got much better lower fork protection and much better deflection around objects. Braking comes from the same BrakeTech Evo 4 caliper on the previous model, a great brake that's been well proven on lots of different bikes. And front wheel, hubs and spokes are the standard 21-inch MORAD units. Front brake hose has been improved by the sheath that makes it more rigid and won't bend just above the fork brace, so quite an improvement there. Speaking of the fork brace, the new fender and fork brace are now one unit. The brace looks a bit more solid than the previous bike, but it is one part, so that will be a more expensive replacement. The headlight shroud is all new LED light pointing down this time, and quite a nice shape. It's now fixed to the triple clamps with a clamp in behind that screws into the shroud, and not cable ties, and the on-off switch is nice and tidy underneath the chassis here, just above the fan. As you can see going north now, the new handlebar clamps are very robust and strong looking with Torx fittings. The fixings are slightly eccentric, so you can turn them fore and aft for a slightly more forward or rearward fitting. New triple clamps, again with new Torx fittings. And at the controls, new BrakeTech short levers, both sides, clutch and brake. Here's a comparison with last year's 22 model BrakeTech brakes with the BrakeTech long lever. The handlebar pad has been improved and now an FIM standard size, very nice, and looks sharp with the GasGas logo on the red base, very nice. Let's go to the radiator. Brand new radiator spars holding the radiator in that are removable, so easy access to get the whole lot out. Filling it's quite easy, the filler's at the top. It's a clip-in radiator guard, which we'll see in a second. I'm just going to give this a really nice solid tug and it'll come away at the top off that pin and then just lift out of a channel. As you can see, the filler's easy to access and the radiator is rubber mounted, so it's nice and protected in between the spars and also free from vibration damage. The grill goes in with the reverse of the procedure. Just slip it into the channel at the bottom, clip into the pin at the top, and an easy, nice fitting radiator protection. The fan is the standard Spal model, as seen on previous bikes, and the map switch is nicely tucked away on the right hand side there. New cylinder head, new radiator hose. Actually the radiator is longer, so we have to have a purge screw on the top there, and also the thermo for the radiator is now down the bottom, a little bit harder to service but reasonably well protected. This is the head stem area of the new bike, quite a strong feature on the new GasGas. Some good solid bracing around the lower head stem bearing there. And you can see the new frame stops and the Torx fittings for the removable radiator spars in the frame. The back part of the frame is almost identical to the 22. They've cleaned up a fair bit around the foot peg area, but geometry looks exactly the same. The ECU is in exactly the same position, and unfortunately facing that way, the plug still gets water in it and holds water in it. I don't know why they can't fix that. Key and 28mm PWK carby, same as ever. Front sprocket, same front sprocket protector, same old gear lever, but thank God they've put the hole in the bash plate underneath the sump plug for a change. That's nice. The hole lines up with sump plug, great. The other thing they have removed is the little hole that made it easy to get the gear lever off, which is a shame. They didn't leave that on. Same swing arm arrangement. That hasn't changed much for this model. Clutch cover's been improved. That's a slightly more robust cover that I suppose will give a slightly better clutch action because it won't flex. Looks nice and strong, nice and beefy. Love the reinforcing through the middle there. Kickstarter. What have they done? Nothing. Still a quadrant gear. Same at the bottom. That's still the same bushing principle for the fixing onto the knuckle, that's still going to break if it gets loose. They have improved where your boot goes onto it. They could have done better in that area. Side stand. New side stand. That is cast, that piece there. The last one was folded. The leg is the same, the spring is the same, the way it fits up against the swing arm is the same. But the fixing at the front is a cast piece, and that's an improvement. New exhaust guard. That looks pretty good, and it fits in nicely with the Airbox. Exhaust tip. That's the new 23 exhaust tip. Very, very nice, very clean. That's the old 22 exhaust tip. Tended to break away if you sat on it. Suspension linkage is very, very much the same. Some new castings, but it looks like the geometry is the same and the way it all fits together is the same. The way the bash plate wraps around the back there is much better. It's much more sturdier, and I think it will offer better protection. Again, more Torx fittings. To the brand new rear shock from Tech Suspensions. This has got some interesting features. Unfortunately, it's just single way adjustable, just a positive and minus adjustment for combined rebound and compression at the top there. 73 Newton meter spring. Schrader valve for regassing the body. It looks quite simple. They have done some improvements to the way it fixes to the body. Here you can see the bush taken out. It's now got a proper seal like a fork seal. It's a sprung oil seal rather than just an O-ring as found on most other bikes. Time will tell if this is an improvement over the Olins. The preload spacer locks like an Elka suspension with just a grub screw. And on to the new GasGas 3-piece Airbox. Quite a change this time. As you can see, it incorporates the fixings for the rear guard. And it actually goes onto the bike much easier than the previous model. The inlet rubber isn't as much of a struggle getting around the rear damper as on previous bikes, and with just a little bit of wiggling you can get it to fit quite nicely. You can see here from another angle I've left the hose clamp off so it makes it easier to see, but it goes on quite easily, and just with a little bit of persuasion from the carb you can get that to fit quite nicely, and then you can tighten up your hose clamp, put your 4 screws in, and away you go. That's the tab on the back of the Airbox that slots into the new rear fender, and as you can see there, there's 4 white plastic fittings that take the pins on the rear of the fender. That's the water deflection flap. That's a little bit of a pain to get out. With a big set of hands like mine, you have to turn that screw 90 degrees. It's a little bit of a fiddle to get out, and even more of a fiddle to get back in. You can see here I've still got the screws out that fix the Airbox to the frame, so it's a bit wobbly, but basically there's a plastic piece in there that you pull up and that locks the air filter in. The air filter does just pull up, but there's 4 small locating pins that hold it in place. That's great getting it when you've got it right, but you have to struggle with that a little to get it in. The petrol tank, normal petcock, same as before. Normal filler cap, same as before. Slots straight in easily, just like the previous 22 model. It does take 2 screws to fit though, one at the front and one at the back, where the 22 model previously just had the one at the front. The rear fender, fantastic rear fender as far as bendability goes. This is really, really flexy. It's big though. You can see on the bottom there's 4 pins. There's that piece around the Airbox, and also there's a hook at the back that holds it down against the Airbox. When you're fitting that, you make sure you get that on, and then just a bit of a tap, they go in, and there's a screw that goes into the front to hold it all together on the bike. Very, very easy system, very elegant, and very flexible. I think that'll be a hit, this new rear fender. But now something I do have to have a bit of a bitch and a moan about, the new foot pegs. This is a whole new system from KTM GasGas. These new pegs are a big peg and very elegant as far as when they're fitted. There's no screws or bolts sticking out the rear as you can see here, but look at them compared to the size of the standard peg from a 22. We're talking 20mm, 25mm wider this bike with these new pegs. They are a seriously long peg, and they do not fold up all the way. All previous bikes, the pegs folded completely vertical. These new pegs on the 23 Racing do not fold up all the way and stick out wide. Here's the 4 pieces that are supplied to make the pegs fit the new bracket on the bike. We've got a peg here. We've got quite a special pin with a groove in it to hold the spring in place, and a D-shaped end. Then we have the special spring and the P-clip to stop it being released after we've fitted it. So start with, you put the spring in the retaining hole in the peg, put the peg into the frame, and then push this special shaped rod in. The groove in it picks up the spring. You'll get that in a certain way. Now you have to put a torque spanner into the end of the rod, and you have to pull it round under tension and align the D shape pushing in. That one went in really easy. I tried this a few times and it wasn't so easy every time. Then you put this retaining P-clip in, and that stops the rod coming out. It's a nice elegant system, but it makes for a very wide bike and a peg that doesn't fold up against the frame, which I think is critical in a trial situation. You also have no choice. You can't use any of the standard aftermarket pegs that are available. You're stuck with this peg. So that's always a downside. Anyway, if you like this one from the Trials Workshop and the new 2023 GasGas TXT Racing, like and subscribe down below, and I'll see you in the next one.